I
The
learned
numbers
early
are
how to
in, and they're
disappear
better
without
than we
leaving a room.
projected.
That's
You're so
fantastic
lucky,
news.
people
It's
always said, smiling at me like I'd won a prize. Married to a CEO. Living the dream. I nodded. I always nodded. At the company gala, a man clinked his glass and laughed. Your wife is fearless, he said to me. Brilliant too. She is, I replied. He leaned closer. So what do you do all day? I smiled. I help where I can. He laughed harder. Must be nice. I didn't correct him. Silence was easier than explaining that I built the system processing every transaction they praised. That I handled the early finances when banks laughed at her pitch. That I fixed problems at 2 a.m. while she slept before big meetings. I chose silence because love felt more important than credit. My father's voice lived in my head. Patience is power, son. Loud men fall first. Across the room, my wife stood on stage in a sharp white suit, calm and glowing. Applause followed her like oxygen. She didn't look at me. She rarely did in public. Another record year, she said confidently. Another step forward. Cheers exploded. Her assistant stood near her, clapping a little too hard. He noticed me watching. Oh, he said, walking over, straightening his tie. You made it. I was invited, I replied. He smiled thinly. Of course. Just didn't expect you to enjoy corporate events. I enjoy watching, I said. He chuckled. Right. Watching. My wife stepped down from the stage. Cameras flashed. Someone asked her a question. How does it feel carrying such a massive company on your shoulders? She answered without hesitation. I've always trusted myself. I waited. She didn't mention support. Or partnership. Or us. Later, near the bar, she finally spoke to me. Don't stay too long, she said. Investors are everywhere. I won't embarrass you, I replied. She paused. That's not what I meant. I nodded again. You should talk more, she added. People assume things. I let them, I said. She frowned. Why? Because peace is quiet. She looked confused, then distracted. Her phone buzzed. She walked away mid-conversation. My assistant, no, her assistant, leaned beside another executive behind me. She's unstoppable, he said confidently. Built everything herself. The executive nodded. And the husband? He's just her husband, the assistant replied. He knows nothing. The words slid into my chest like cold water. I stood still. No one noticed. Inside, something cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to hurt. I remembered nights staring at spreadsheets while my wife cried from stress. I remembered signing documents in my name to save her deadlines. I remembered choosing silence again and again. My father's voice returned, softer this time. Silence protects you, until it doesn't. I exhaled slowly. My wife laughed nearby, confident and admired, standing inside the glass wall we'd built together. I stood outside it, invisible, holding every brick. For the first time, I wondered what would happen if I spoke. And for the first time, the silence felt dangerous. You don't need to join this meeting, my wife said without looking up from her tablet. I stopped at the doorway. I always sit in. She sighed. This one's strategic. I helped design the... I know, she interrupted. But things are different now. Different. The word landed harder than it should have. I stepped back. All right. Her assistant was already inside, smiling at the screen. He glanced at me and raised his eyebrows, like he'd won something small but important. Later that afternoon, I ran into him near the elevators. You weren't in the meeting, he said casually. I noticed. He laughed. It moved fast. Real executive stuff. I built the workflow, I said. He tilted his head. Years ago, maybe. We've evolved. That night at home, I tried again. Why was I cut out today? I asked while she scrolled on her phone. She didn't look up. You're reading too much into it. I'm not. It felt intentional. She finally met my eyes. Do you really want to be part of all this again? Again? I asked. You said you preferred staying quiet, she replied. You wanted peace. I wanted balance, I said. Not disappearance. She stood up. I'm exhausted. Let's not fight. I'm not fighting. That's the problem, she said. You never do. The next week, my access badge stopped working. I stood at the gate while security watched. System error, the guard said. Talk to admin. Admin smiled awkwardly. Temporary update. I messaged my wife. My badge doesn't work. She replied 10 minutes later. Ask the office manager. The office manager avoided my eyes. Changes came from above, she said softly. From my wife. She hesitated. I can't say. At lunch, my best friend slid into the seat across from me. Something's off, he said quietly. People think you're irrelevant. I'm still here, I replied. For now, he said. But respect leaves before people do. That evening, I confronted my wife again. Why is my access gone? She crossed her arms. It's temporary. Why? Because you're not officially part of operations anymore. I never stopped being, I said. She shook her head. This company needs clarity. Then say it clearly, I said. Do you want me out? She looked away. I want things simple. Simple for who? I asked. For me, she replied. The assistant started speaking for her in meetings I still attended remotely. That's not accurate, I said once. He smiled. According to current data, it is. I wrote the data logic, I replied. Past tense, he said. People laughed lightly. My wife said nothing. That night she mentioned an audit. Routine, she said. Just paperwork. Why didn't you tell me earlier? She shrugged. You don't need to worry about it. That sentence stayed with me. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to her type emails beside me. You're pushing me out, I said softly. She stopped typing. I'm protecting what I built. What we built, I corrected. She turned to me. You wouldn't understand business anymore. The words cut deeper than anger. They rewrote our past. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I just stared at the wall, feeling something settle in my chest. Heavy, quiet, final. Silence had kept us together. Now it was being used to erase me. She didn't raise her voice when she said it. We should talk. I sat across from her at the marble table. The house felt staged like a hotel pretending to be a home. She slid a folder toward me. This will make things easier. I opened it. Divorce papers. Clean. Organized. Final. You already decided, I said. She nodded. This is the mature way. Whose idea was it? I asked. She hesitated. Mine. I closed the folder. You planned this. I prepared, she corrected. There's a difference. Her assistant stood near the window, pretending not to listen. I'll be fair, she said. You'll walk away comfortable. Comfortable silence, I replied. She sighed. You never wanted involvement. I wanted respect. She leaned forward. I gave you safety. I laughed once. Surprised us both. You gave me invisibility, I said. She pushed the folder again. Sign it. No drama. What happens to the company? I asked. She smiled, confident. It stays with the person who runs it. And who built it? I asked. She didn't answer. Her assistant finally spoke. This is generous. Most people don't get this kind of exit. I looked at him. You're standing in my house. He smiled. Temporary arrangements. I stood up. I won't sign today. Her expression tightened. You don't have leverage. I met her eyes. You're sure? She crossed her arms. You never spoke before. I was protecting us, I said. There is no us, she replied. I took the folder and slid it back untouched. I'll have my lawyer review it, I said. She laughed softly. You don't have one. I do, I replied. That night I met him. Don't sign anything, my lawyer said after one glance. She made mistakes. What kind? I asked. He tapped a page. The kind people make when they underestimate silence. Back home my wife waited. You're stalling, she said. I'm thinking, I replied. About what? She asked sharply. About everything I never said. She scoffed. You had years. I was busy fixing your emergencies. She stood. You didn't build this. I stepped closer. Then why is my name in the foundation documents? She froze. That's impossible, she said. You didn't read everything, I replied. Her assistant shifted. That's irrelevant. It's not, I said. It's ownership. My wife laughed nervously. You're bluffing. Check page 47, I said. She didn't move. I picked up the folder and walked toward the door. Where are you going? She asked. To breathe, I replied. Outside my phone buzzed. A board member's name lit the screen. Are you attending the audit review? He asked. I wasn't invited, I replied. There was a pause. You requested it. I closed my eyes. I did. Months ago. Silence filled the call. We'll see you there, he said finally. Inside, my wife stared at me like I was a stranger. You planned this, she whispered. I shook my head. I planned stability. You planned exile. She reached for me. We can fix this. I stepped back. You already signed it in your head. Her assistant spoke quickly. This doesn't change anything. I looked at him. It changes everything. I left without raising my voice. For the first time, silence wasn't weakness. It was loaded. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I met my old mentor at a small cafe. You look tired, he said, stirring his coffee. I am, I admitted. And angry. You've always been patient, he said. Why now? I stayed quiet while she erased me, I said. It's not patience anymore. It's danger. He nodded slowly. Then act but wisely. I have documents, contracts, emails, systems, everything she relied on. He raised an eyebrow. And you never said anything before? I chose love over credit, I said. Now I choose survival. Back at the office, I sent a discreet email to the board. Is this safe? My lawyer asked when I showed him the draft. Safer than silence, I replied. My wife called mid-afternoon. You're busy, she said sharply. Always, I said. But I make time for emergencies. Are you joining the board dinner tonight? She asked. I wasn't invited, I replied. Not important, she said. You can stay home. Her voice was calm, but her tone betrayed worry. I didn't respond. Later, I overheard her assistant bragging in a meeting. She won't notice if we make changes quietly, he said. Changes? Another executive asked. Operational improvements, he replied. Nothing major. I smiled inwardly. Everything major. That evening my best friend called. She's moving fast, he said. Firing loyal staff, promoting her assistant. She's blind if she thinks it won't backfire. I know, I said. Patience isn't in her vocabulary anymore. You're sure about this audit? He asked. I requested it months ago, I said. It's time to let the system do its work. At home, my wife tried a conversation. You're distant, she said. I'm focused, I replied. Focused on what? Balance, I said. And clarity. She frowned. You used to say silence was strength. It was, I said. Until strength became absence. She paused. You're threatening me, she whispered. I'm not threatening, I said. I'm preparing. Her assistant peeked in through the kitchen door. She's fine, I said. No need to worry. He gave me a quick, uncomfortable smile. A week later, I gathered the junior staff who still respected me. You know the systems you rely on? I asked quietly. They nodded. I built them, I said. And I kept backups. Everything. If anyone tries to falsify reports, it'll show. They exchanged glances, unsure if this was encouragement or warning. It's not about revenge, I said. It's about truth. I thought he'd never speak up, one whispered. I shrugged. Silence has its price. Back at the office, the assistant started sending daily updates to the board, trying to preempt me. I'll handle it, I said to my lawyer. Let him keep thinking he's winning. You're patient, my lawyer said. Too patient sometimes. I learned from my father, I replied. Patience isn't weakness, it's planning. That evening my wife called again. You've changed, she said. I always planned, I replied. You just stopped noticing. You're manipulating me, she said. I'm not, I said. I'm reclaiming what's mine. Her voice trembled slightly. I won't fight you in public, I said. But I won't ignore this either. She hung up. I sat in the dark, reviewing contracts and spreadsheets, smiling quietly to myself. The pieces were moving, slowly but surely. The assistant believed he was in control. My wife believed she still was. I didn't speak yet, not fully. But the quiet man had started moving. And when he did, everything would shift. The audit began quietly, almost innocently. I watched from my office as board members filed into the conference room. She'll be fine, my wife said to the assistant, smoothing her blazer. I've double-checked the numbers, he replied confidently. Good, she said. Just, don't make me look bad. I smiled softly to myself. Just wait. Minutes later, the CFO started presenting. These are the revised reports, he said. All in order. I leaned over to the junior staff. Watch carefully, I whispered. The assistant noticed me. His smile faltered. You shouldn't be here, he muttered under his breath. I requested the review, I said evenly. His hand twitched, but he kept talking. She's been hiding operational errors for months, I said quietly to a board member nearby. He froze. Excuse me? I tapped the spreadsheet. Check these. Look at the dates. The CFO fumbled. These entries. Exactly, I said. You'll see what was changed last week without proper authorization. My wife's expression shifted. Confusion. Panic. You're mistaken, she said sharply. Am I? I asked. Or is this the first time you see the consequences? Her assistant opened his mouth. I stopped him with a glance. He shut it quickly. You built this, I said to the board, yet claimed ignorance. Everything runs through my systems. Everything is traceable. One executive whispered, this is serious. Serious? I said. This is inevitable. The assistant tried again. We can fix this, quick adjustments. No, I said softly. Let it unfold naturally. My wife's eyes darted around. You planned this? I prepared, I corrected. Preparation is different from planning. Why now? She demanded. Because now, silence isn't useful anymore. Her voice shook. You could ruin me. I'm not here to ruin anyone, I said. I'm here to restore balance. A board member finally spoke. These discrepancies, they're extensive. Internal audits will need a follow-up. Yes, I said. And you'll see everything is accounted for, and traceable. Her assistant's face went pale. He glanced at her for support. She had none. Perhaps we can adjust the reports, he stammered. Adjust. I said, my voice quiet but sharp. The truth isn't adjustable. My wife swallowed. I didn't think. You didn't think because you assumed silence meant weakness, I said. It doesn't. The room fell into a tense quiet. I could hear pens scratching. Phones clicking. The CFO muttering under his breath. Her assistant tried one last angle. If we act fast, we can contain the damage. Contain the damage? I asked. Or cover it up. The truth has a way of walking in whether you like it or not. The junior staff glanced at me wide-eyed. Thank you for trusting me, I whispered to them. She's losing control, one executive said under their breath. I nodded inwardly. Exactly as it should be. Later, my wife called me privately in the hall. You're destroying me, she whispered. I'm not destroying, I said. I'm letting reality catch up. I trusted you, she shouted. You still can, I replied. If you accept it. I can't, she admitted, voice cracking. Then watch, I said. Her assistant approached her. We can recover, if we act fast. She shook her head. No, not now. I left the hallway watching the cracks spread. The assistant's confidence was gone. Her empire, so carefully polished, was bending under its own weight. And I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't needed to. Karma doesn't knock. It walks in. And sometimes it walks slowly, so slowly that the person who caused it doesn't even notice until it's too late. By the end of the day, the board requested a follow-up meeting. You're going to attend, they told her. I smiled quietly. I already am. Her assistant fumed. You can't. I can, I said. I design the systems. I know everything. My wife turned to me. Her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before. Fear. I thought you'd never act, she whispered. Silence has its limits, I said. And that was the truth. I walked into the boardroom and felt every pair of eyes on me. Why is he here? My wife whispered, almost to herself. I requested it, I said softly. Her assistant froze mid-note, staring at me like I had grown taller overnight. You shouldn't, he began. I should, I interrupted calm. I designed everything you're seeing. The room went quiet. The board chairman cleared his throat. Mister? He asked hesitantly. My name is enough, I said. I am the person behind the systems you've been reviewing. My wife's eyes widened. You never said. I stayed silent, I replied. To protect the company. To protect you. You're bluffing, she said, voice shaky. No bluffing, I said. Every contract, every report, every audit trail runs through my systems. You signed papers. You took actions. I kept silent. And now? I paused, letting it settle. Now the truth speaks for itself. Her assistant swallowed hard. That's impossible. I leaned forward. Check the database access logs. Check the timestamps. Everything is traceable to me. A junior board member whispered, I didn't realize. I ignored him. My wife's jaw tightened. You could have said anything before, she said. Why now? I waited, I said. I waited until silence was no longer safe. until actions had consequences. You can't? Her assistant tried again. I already can, I said. And I will. The chairman cleared his throat. We need clarity. Who is in charge? I smiled slightly. I am. Or rather, the system I designed dictates control. And it shows exactly where authority lies. Her assistant stammered. We can fix this, adjust the numbers. You'll find nothing to adjust, I said. Everything is accurate, transparent, complete. My wife's eyes filled with fear. I thought you were just silent. I finished for her. Yes, silent. Until now. She shook her head. You can't take this. I already have, I said. One of the executives asked, what about the assistant? I turned to him. He believed he controlled things because he acted loudly. But authority isn't volume. It's truth. And the truth shows he acted outside boundaries repeatedly. He paled. You are dismissed, I said softly. Effective immediately. The assistant froze, then slumped into the nearest chair. My wife's voice cracked. You're destroying everything I built. I'm not destroying, I said calmly. I'm correcting what you tried to hide. She laughed bitterly. You waited years, then one sentence changes everything? One sentence can speak volumes, I replied. And actions speak louder. I gestured toward the documents on the table. Review every single audit report. Everything you manipulated is visible. Everything you ignored is traceable. Every decision that should have included me was bypassed. Everything. She buried her face in her hands. I trusted you. You still can, I said quietly. If you accept responsibility. Her assistant groaned. This isn't fair. Fair isn't relevant, I said. Truth is. The chairman leaned back, stunned. I've never seen anything like this. You will, I said. Because this isn't revenge. This is consequence. My wife's voice was barely audible. Why didn't you ever speak before? Because love required patience, I said. And patience required silence. I didn't realize. You didn't have to, I said. Now you know. And it's too late to undo. Her assistant muttered, we need a plan. I already have one, I said. And it runs perfectly without you. She looked up at me. Tears streaked her makeup. Do you hate me? No, I said. I don't hate. I'm free. You're free. And the system is free of error. You've humiliated me, she whispered. I've restored balance, I corrected gently. Not for me. For the company. For truth. For everyone who relied on integrity. Her assistant slammed his notebook shut. This is over. Yes, I said. It is. And finally, everyone sees clearly. She looked around the room helpless. I miscalculated everything. Not miscalculated, I said. Ignored. You ignored the person who protected your empire. Who kept it standing when storms hit. Who stayed silent when you assumed weakness. I can't believe. I did nothing, I said. I simply waited. And spoke once. That was enough. Silence fell across the room. My wife's empire, her assistant's confidence, the illusions of control, they crumbled under the weight of truth. I stood calm. The room buzzed, shocked, unsettled, powerless. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout. I only spoke once. And it changed everything. You think you've won, she said, voice trembling. But the media, the board, it's not over. I'm not here to win, I replied calmly. I'm here to see the truth recognized. She laughed bitterly. Truth? You hid everything for years. And now you destroy me. I didn't destroy, I said. You destroyed the balance yourself. Her assistant muttered from behind her, we can fix this. Recover? Recover what? I asked sharply. Confidence built on lies? Authority built on ignorance? It's gone. She turned to him, eyes wide. Listen to him. I am, he said quietly, clearly shaken. You should have spoken earlier, she said to me, voice breaking. Why wait until it was too late? Because silence wasn't weakness, I replied. It was patience. Patience that taught me exactly how fragile your control was. She swallowed hard. You never cared about me? About us. I cared, I said softly. More than you ever noticed. That's why I stayed quiet. You stayed quiet while I assumed. Assumed what? I asked. That I was useless? That I wouldn't notice? That I'd let you destroy the company? Her lips trembled. I thought love required silence. Love requires trust, I said. Not ignoring the person who protected everything you built. Her assistant tried again. We can approach the board. Explain. Apologize. Damage control. No, I said firmly. Damage control won't bring back what you ignored. It won't undo negligence. She pressed her hands to her face. I can't believe. I misjudged everything. You held it all together while You forgot someone had to be the backbone, I said. I was silent because I loved you. But silence isn't a shield against reckoning. She started then stopped. Her chest heaved. You don't have anyone to blame now, I said. Not me. Not the staff. Not the board. Only yourself. Her assistant looked like he might speak, but I silenced him with a glance. You've lost control, I said quietly. And for the first time you're facing the consequences of your arrogance. Her voice cracked. Do you hate me? I don't, I replied. I just see clearly now. And I'm free from illusion. You waited. You planned. I didn't plan revenge, I said. I prepared truth. And truth doesn't need theatrics to break walls. She slumped into a chair, pale. I thought power would protect me. That no one could touch me. Power without respect is fragile, I said. And you lost respect long before today. She shook her head. I trusted myself. I never imagined. You never imagined the man behind the glass wall would finally speak, I said softly. She looked at me, tears streaking her makeup. I misjudged everything. I misjudged you. And you'll remember it forever, I said. Not as punishment. Not as revenge. As consequence. Her assistant muttered, This is unfair. Life isn't about fairness, I said. It's about truth. And you've been living in lies. I don't know what to do, she whispered. You already know, I said. Accept it. Learn. Move forward. Or don't. Your choice. The room was quiet. Her empire crumbling, her assistant powerless, her pride shattered. She whispered finally, you could have spoken earlier. You could have. I chose silence, I said. Because I loved you. But love without recognition is dangerous. I didn't raise my voice, until it mattered. She lowered her head. I should have listened. I should have. Too late, I said gently. But maybe not too late to learn. Her assistant finally slumped against the wall, muttering under his breath. We're finished? Yes, I said. You are. But not because of me. Because you ignored reality. Because you believed power made you untouchable. And because you forgot the one person who kept it all standing. Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time she looked small. Not angry, not powerful, just human. I stepped back. Come. Silent. You'll remember this, I said. And I hope you remember why. Her voice cracked. I do. I nodded. Good. Then let this be a lesson you can't undo. The board members whispered among themselves, eyes wide. Her assistant finally muttered, We underestimated him. Yes, I said softly. You all did. And for the first time in years I felt peace. I sat in my new apartment, quiet for the first time in years. My phone buzzed. A message from an old colleague. Dinner tonight? Catch up. I typed back, sure. 7 p.m. I realized how long it had been since anyone asked me to just exist, not manage crises or fix errors. Later at the restaurant, my friend greeted me. You look lighter, he said. I feel lighter, I replied. The chaos is behind me. He nodded. And her? She's learning consequences, I said. I don't need to be part of it anymore. You seem peaceful, he said. I am, I replied. For the first time in years, silence wasn't survival. Now it's choice. After dinner, I walked home and ran into a woman leaving a bookstore. You dropped this, she said, handing me a notebook I didn't realize I had. Thanks, I said. I remember you from the lecture last month, she said. About systems management. You asked interesting questions. I smiled. Glad to hear it. I'm rediscovering interests I neglected. Rediscovering yourself? She asked, curious. Exactly, I said. The next week I received a call from the board. Your expertise is invaluable, one member said. We'd like your advice on future audits. I'll help, I said. But only on my terms. Fair, he replied. Completely fair. I hung up and leaned back. For years I had defined myself by what I did for others quietly. Now I could define myself by what I chose. I started meeting with young professionals, mentoring those overlooked, the silent ones. You helped me see value in patience, one intern said. I was about to quit. Don't disappear quietly, I said. Your voice matters, but choose when to speak. I nodded inwardly, thinking about the years I spent silent, protecting an empire while ignoring myself. At home, I reviewed my old spreadsheets, systems I built, contracts I managed, emails I drafted. Time to close these chapters, I muttered aloud. I deleted outdated files, archived important ones. Not as revenge, not as spite, as closure. My phone buzzed again. A message from my ex-wife. I've begun learning. I understand now. I hope you're well. I stared at it, feeling no anger. Good, I whispered. That's all I wanted. Later, I met the woman from the bookstore again. You seem different, she said, smiling. I am, I replied. I stopped being invisible. I stopped being quiet for everyone else. And now I speak when it matters, I said. I act when it counts. She nodded. Sounds like freedom. It is, I said. Freedom and clarity. Back at my apartment, I made a list. Not tasks. Not projects. Not audits. A list of things I wanted. Books to read. Places to visit. People to meet. Conversations to have. For the first time, it wasn't about work. Or reputation. Or silence. It was about me. And that realization felt heavier than any power struggle, yet lighter than the world I had once carried. I remembered my father's words again. Patience is power, son. But knowing when to move, that's wisdom. I finally understood. Silence had protected me, shaped me, and restrained me. Now, speaking freely and choosing my moments, I could live fully. I called my best friend. Want to meet tomorrow? I asked. Absolutely, he said. You sound alive. I am, I replied. And for the first time, I felt like the man I had forgotten I could be. Not just a husband. Not just a protector. Not just silent. Me. I sat on the balcony watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. My phone buzzed. A message from her. I've begun rebuilding. Slowly. Thank you for showing me. I stared at it and smiled faintly. Not anger. Not triumph. Just clarity. You've changed, a voice said beside me. I turned. The woman from the bookstore, leaning casually against the railing. I have, I admitted. Freed from illusions. From silence that wasn't mine. From a life that belonged to someone else. She raised an eyebrow. You seem lighter. I am, I said. I finally speak only when it matters. She nodded. And the rest? The rest. I let it be, I said. No revenge, no bitterness. Just truth. Later I met my best friend at a quiet cafe. You're calm, he said. After all that chaos. I've stopped carrying what isn't mine to hold, I said. No grudges, no unnecessary fights. Even with her? Especially with her, I said. She learned. Slowly. I'm not responsible for her mistakes, only for what I do with mine. He smiled. So the man behind the glass wall finally stepped out. I did, I admitted. And I found myself. A young intern I'd mentored approached me afterward. Thank you, she said quietly, for showing me patience and strength, for teaching me how to stand quietly until it's time to speak. You're welcome, I said. Remember, silence can protect you, but only speak when it matters. Later that evening, my phone buzzed again. Another message. I'm sorry, it read. I stared at it for a moment, feeling no need to respond. Some apologies aren't for closure, they're for learning. And she had learned. I walked through the quiet streets, feeling the city hum around me. I thought of my father. Patience is power, son. But wisdom is knowing when to act. I had learned both. At home, I opened my journal. Not work, not contracts. My journal. Thoughts. Ideas. Plans for myself. Freedom, I whispered aloud. Later, the woman from the bookstore called me. Dinner? She asked. Sure, I replied. But let's talk not about business or past mistakes. Let's just be. She smiled. Sounds perfect. I leaned back, finally letting the silence stretch. Not heavy. Not threatening. Not restraining. Silent, yes. But this silence was earned. I thought of her, my ex-wife, and felt neither anger nor sadness. I felt respect. For the lessons learned, for the truth revealed, for the man I had become. You stayed silent when it mattered, I whispered. And now, I speak when it matters. The city lights blinked back at me, patient, unhurried. I smiled. I was no longer invisible. I was no longer silent by necessity. I was silent by choice. And when I spoke, it counted. Finally, I could let the past rest. Finally, I could be me. Finally, silence was mine.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.